Good day, Mr. Bernas.
Good
How have you
morning, good
been?
afternoon. I'm okay, I'm fine. Thank you for the invite.
So, can I interview you about your views on reading literature? So, is it okay that I record it?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Please be assured that all responses will be strictly used for academic purpose only. So, let's start. Um, can you tell me something about yourself?
Okay, so I'm a currently fourth year student under uh, in PUP Taguig. My course is actually marketing management, and I'm also an editor in chief for the Chronicler, which is a troubling organization right now. No tea, no shade. And that's pretty much it about me. And I'm also like to read, and I also I'm a movie fanatic, and at the same time, mm, I like I like critiquing. I like giving my insights into movies and art, etc.
So, number one, you hear the word literature. What comes first to your mind?
Hmm, definitely, when I hear that, definitely it's books. When we say literature, it's defined as books or any other written works, especially those considered to have creative or artistic merits. Or perhaps it has a lasting value. Traditionally, when you say literature, it has been applied by those imaginative works, for example, poetry or prose, and distinguished by the intention of their authors and perceived aesthetic excellence of their execution. And sometimes it could be a book, it could be, it could be any published work. And at the same time, it has a lot of variety of systems such as language, national origin, historical period, genre, and
Oh,
subject matter. Yun.
okay, so thank you for that. What can you say about this quote? Literature is the mirror of the society.
I agree. I agree on that quotes. Literature is the mirror of the society, but at the same time, it could also be interchangeable. Society is also the mirror of of literature
Oh,
in the sense of in its corrective function. Literature mirrors the ills of the society with a view, with a view to making the society realize its mistake and make amends. And at the same time, literature is a mirror of society, because it gives an image, but the image is not necessarily a true image. The image can be distorted in reality or perceived as distorted by society as a whole. Um, so what I'm trying to say is that whatever it is that the other, let me give you an example. For example, How to Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, or Margaret
oh,
Thatcher's dystopian novel or literature, The Handmaid's Tale. These are an exact example of literature that is depicts what currently happened in the society, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they happened, but it's based on history. It's based on the struggles of the people, when it comes to racism, when it comes to when it comes to ano ba dito? Corruption, or it could be a problem with gender equality. It could be women empowerment. And then when the experience, when the author experienced that firsthand, or if they read something that uh, if they see firsthand the what's happening in the society, somehow they put it in writing so that it can pass on to the generation to come. So in a way, it's in a corrective measures or in a corrective function. Literature is the mirror of the society, and at the same time, society is also the mirror of the literature, because whatever it goes hand in hand. Yeah.
So you mentioned that literature were passed from generations to generations. So do you think literature is still important today?
Um, it has to be, I'm optimistic about that. Literature, it's still relevant today because number one, it is able to give readers certain insights by giving a glimpse into the past and sharing its input on issues that have stayed as universal and as timeless as they have. So yung question kasi is, diba, is it still relevant today?
Mm-mm.
Right? So
Yes.
it has to be relevant today. We
Okay.
as educators, we as students, we as enthusiasts has to make sure that we keep on making things relevant so that we don't forget. We don't forget what we saw, what we felt, and at the same time it could pass on to various generation. Ganon.
So do you think literature is still appreciated by the new generations? You said that it has to be relevant, but do you think it is still appreciated? Because
um
the modern, modern time.
mm, Appreciated. First and for all, I would like to say that um art literature is an example of art, and art is always be subjective, and basically an audience um whenever somebody read something, basically, whether you are from millennial or Gen X or from old, if you're a classic or millennial or Gen X, or kung ano pa ba yung mga old, yung mga matatanda, basically, Gen Z or something like that. Basically, it still ups to their own interpretation. Number one, because it's subjective, and at the same time, uh, it can also be an effect to the climate that we are in. For example, the Gen Z generation or the millennial generation, they rely on digital literature. For example, the Wattpad. Some people might argue that Wattpad it's not actually literature, but for some, they will say it's actually a literature, and it can be accessible by the Gen Z or the younger generation. And then in an argument, us, yung mga millennials, and then yung mga mas matanda pa sa atin, we tend to like to use we use an actual book to read it, to appreciate it, etc. So, and at the same time, it's also about um, I think the key there, I'm sorry, nag-iisip ako the key there is that we need to make sure that whenever we try to read something, whether kung kahit saang generation ka, it is important that you think clearly, and then at the same time that you will learn something out of it regardless of saang generation ka man. Ganon.
Okay, so how would you compare classic literature to modern ones? Has something ever changed?
Mm, okay, so when you say classic, let's say Pride and Prejudice, ano
Yeah.
pa ba? Yung mga binanggit ko kanina, yung How to Kill a Mockingbird. What else?
Oh,
Yung mga The Kings and Monarchs prose and poems. And ano pa ba yung mga classic? Uh, Tawag dito yung The Lord of the Rings, yung novel na, the novel of Lord of the Rings. Number one, it has something to do with pretense. The pretense, yung changes nilang dalawa. And then second, it has something to do with with the way we write things up and the way we use language. For some younger generation, for example, us or you or Christian, it may be difficult to understand the Tolkien subjectivity. But for the older generation, they can easily appreciate that. Second, for example, in the work of Margaret Thatcher's The Handmaid's Tale, the American people, especially those who experience racism, uh, unequal, gender equality, political problem in their state, or in their country, they could uh, they could potentially relate to that. And then the language that Margaret Thatcher uses in her novel can be easily understood. So technically, yung sabi ko kanina, pretense, and then second, it's the way it is being written. And then right now, in the modern generation, somehow, whenever we see yung mga bagong literature na lumalabas ngayon, it can be easily understood by a lot of people. Yeah.
so is literature important to you as a student or a worker? Yeah,
Um, the question is it important to me?
you, yes, to you.
Uh, is it important to me? I think the answer for that will be yes. But at the same time, the reason why it is important to me, because through literature I acquired love of books and the joy of reading it. Reading is joyful, educational, and liberating experience. You are transported from your circumstances into another world, another time, and another civilization. Reading is the key that unlocks the door to the treasury of the world. So if you're a very imaginative person like me, that's very helpful. Second, reading the literature helps you to think clearly, write clearly, and speak clearly. Clarity of thought and expression technically is a virtue which should be cultivated. And third, for me, I think literature is important because it gives one a better understanding of human nature and the complexity of the human condition. Like what I've said, what experience in the past, and then how you can be able to learn from it. So it makes one less judgmental and more sympathetic. Literature can also be more insightful than nonfiction. For example, I find for example, if you know the work of Aravind Adiga's novel The White Tiger, it's very informative about the dark side of contemporary India. And for example, the Luwalhati Bautista literature, bata-bata paano ka ginawa in the Philippine context. In the
Yes.
same way, I find these artworks brilliantly represented, the way that it depicts the society that we live in. Ganon.
So last question. Has a
Mhm.
book ever changed your life?
Um, has a book ever changed my life?
Or
Okay. The last book that I read, is actually, do you know the author Haruki Murakami? You don't know? Okay, so there's an author that I really like. His name is Haruki Murakami, and then he wrote IQ 184. And then that particularly did not change my life, I would say, but definitely it changed the way I view things.
Yeah.
Whenever I am trying to because Haruki Murakami's IQ 84, um, IQ 84, it's more on a personal struggle. It's more on a struggle of depression and mental health, and at the same time imagining two worlds drifting apart. So it did not change me, but it helps me, it helps me think more clearly and appreciate the artwork it says, itself. So by the way, let me just add to what I said earlier, yung tinanong mo na parang ano yung nagbago about the literature before. um
Mm.
it's not, it's not basically the literature that became worse. It's about the reader. It's so basically you need to understand that literature itself, it's there, and it did not change at all. And then but what's different right now is that the reader. So us as students, if you're a teacher, if you're part of the academe, if you are part of, if you're a literature enthusiast, you need to encourage people to to increase their comprehension, to understand the meaning of each literature itself, uh, regardless of whether it is from digitalization and modernization. So it's really up to the reader itself, but not to the literature, because literature is, they don't have lives. Basically, we are the one who actually have the power to think clearly. Literature itself, it's more of a, they don't have they can only stimulate your mind, but at the end of the day, it's still up to you as a reader to, on how you're going to improve your comprehension per se.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you for your insights. Have a
You're
good day.
welcome. Okay,
Thank you.
have a great day, nation. Happy New Year. Bye,
Happy
everyone.
New Year po. Thank you po.
Okay, bye
Thank you
bye.
po, Kuya. Bye-bye po. Thank you, Kuya. Saan si Joby?